Breaking news. Ukraine has a month to hold the knife to Crimea's throat and get Putin to negotiate peace. Experts have warned that Russia's army will regroup over the winter, giving Ukraine only 4 weeks to keep a knife at Crimea's throat and force Vladimir Putin into peace talks. Volodymyr Zelensky's forces need to move another 10 miles south to be in range of striking key Russian supply routes in Crimea, according to Professor Mark Galeotti, academic and author of more than 20 books on Russia. He said this was Ukraine's last, serious chance to get Putin to negotiate before the Russian army could reorganize over the winter. They still have roughly a month of campaigning to go. The professor, who teaches Slavonic and East European studies at University College London, told The Independent that if things slowed down, the Russians would use the winter to regroup and the whole thing would begin again in the spring. Ukraine's artillery can reach Russian resupply routes to Crimea if they push southward another 10 miles. Holding a knife to Crimea's throat is Ukraine's best bet for getting Putin to the negotiating table. But I anticipate that being the focus of a campaign next year. This comes after President Zelensky of Ukraine acknowledged the slow pace of the counteroffensive but insisted that Ukrainian forces were retaking ground every day. The situation is tough, he said on CBS's 60 Minutes. The Russians' eastern advance was halted, and a counteroffensive launched. No, it's not that quick, but we're making progress every day and freeing up more of our land. The eastern Ukrainian villages of Klishchivka and Andriivka, located close to Bakhmut, were supposedly retaken by Ukrainian generals over the weekend. Earlier this month, Ukrainian forces took the village of Robotyne near Zaporizhia in Russia's southwestern region, breaching Russia's first line of defense. According to Professor Galeotti, the Zaporizhia region is a key battlefield because it would allow Ukrainian forces to launch an offensive toward the Sea of Azov. In doing so, Ukrainian forces would be able to cut off and destroy supply lines connecting Rostov-on-Don, Russia, and the occupied Crimean Peninsula. A postdoctoral researcher at King's College London's War Studies Department, Dr. Marina Myron, says it is very unlikely that Ukraine will make a major breakthrough this year because its window of opportunity is closing ahead of winter. It's beginning to rain, she announced. As the adage goes, the weather will get a lot worse. In June, Ukraine began a counteroffensive along the 600-mile frontline, hitting areas like Bakhmut, Kharkiv, and Zaporizhia in an effort to push Mr. Putin's forces out of territory captured by Russia since the invasion began in February 2022. However, Dr. Myron warns that with the offensive slowing, it is touch and go as to whether Ukraine can make a real, pivotal difference in the war by the end of this year. The focus is on keeping the troops alive through the harsh winter. Ukraine will be unable to sustain an offensive, Dr. Myron remarked. Ukraine, she said, had a heavy logistical footprint thanks to German Leopard and British Challenger 2 tanks, but using them to aid in a full breakthrough would be more difficult in wetter, muddier conditions. That's because they're just not designed for those types of terrains, she explained. Waiting for F-16 fighter jets is preferable because they risk losing more equipment getting bogged down in winter conditions. Denmark has committed to providing Ukraine with 19 F-16 fighter jets by August. Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has stated that 6 will be delivered by the end of this year, 8 in 2024, and 5 in 2025. Unfortunately, Ukraine has conceded that it will take at least 6 months to train its armed forces to use the jets, meaning they will not be operational this coming winter. As the war drags on, concerns about Western support have grown. Dr. Myron addressed these concerns, saying, "Neither side have an infinite supply of money or manpower. Russia, however, does have some breathing room. And they are placing their money on that.